A Florida infant taken away from his mother for 5 months because he was underweight, and she only wanted to feed him soy formula.
There's no case. There's no abuse. There's no neglect. There's simply a doctor who has been challenged by a mother and who didn't like it.
A Connecticut girl taken from her parents for 1 year after a disputed diagnosis.
It was very hard. I couldn't see my family at all. Only 1 hour a week supervised.
Now, some parents and their advocates say the same thing is happening here in Arizona. Tonight, the case of a mother separated from her child by CPS after she questioned a potentially life-saving treatment.
We've got to have a right to choose. How can you take that choice away from me? As his parent, like, when did that happen?
Aggressive doctors and caseworkers pushing parents out of the picture after the parents disagree with the diagnosis.
Well, that is the claim tonight, not just by the woman you're about to meet, but by a small vocal group of Arizona parents accused by the state of medical neglect. Fields Mosley's been following this story for months now. He joins us with the story tonight. Fields?
And Brandon, interestingly, we started asking questions about a completely different case, but the judge issued a gag order in that case in September. No one from the state, not even legislators who know things about this, will discuss it. The secrecy is designed to protect children and families, of course. We understand that, but it also hides these cases from public scrutiny. Parents describe a system where they have to prove they are innocent.
Your heart for this family, Lord, and we just stand in agreement, God.
One last prayer in a circle of supporters. Tonya walked into the juvenile court building to try and get custody of her son.
This is the last pictures that we have together.
The night before, Tonya flipped through a photo album, showing herself and a beaming little boy. We're not showing his face because he is in state custody. She told us the story of adopting him for Guatemala.
Like, he just has a really miraculous story. He was 4 pounds when he was born. He dropped down to 3 pounds, and there's no NICU, and he was an orphan.
She uses that word miracle in the literal sense. Tonya believes God guided her to this boy, cured him of a brain injury, and most recently, kept him alive during cancer treatments.
And I'm just open about my faith. I don't know how not to be.
Tonya said her son was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia at Phoenix Children's Hospital in September 2011. And the doctor said the cure was a bone marrow transplant. So you're okay with the oral chemo, but the bone marrow transplant?
Because it's very invasive. It's a very invasive, oftentimes fatal. Like, I'll say invasive, oftentimes fatal. They'll say life-saving cure.
Tonya admits the doctor said this was a life or death situation, but she didn't go back. The hospital called Child Protective Services, but Tonya never connected with that caseworker. She prayed, put her son on an organic diet, and they went about life for 18 months. But things were about to change.
They were, not happy with me at all.
In May of 2013, a new CPS worker followed up, and her son's leukemia symptoms had returned. She took him to Phoenix Children's. He went back into treatment.
I was scared, and I'm like, I'll do anything, just don't take him.
But she continued to question the bone marrow transplant, and by the end of June, her son was in state custody.
I've been in this hospital for 20 days. You told me you weren't taking my son. You lied to me. I agreed to the treatment. You said you weren't going to take my son. And he said, I have all authority. Don't make this harder on yourself than it already is. Pack your stuff and leave.
Tonya says she hasn't seen him since January. Phoenix Children's Hospital tells us when physicians and other medical experts believe that the legally authorized representative's decision would endanger the child, we must balance the wishes of the LAR with what action is in the best medical interest of the child. In the meantime, Tonya's been in the system of caseworkers, foster care, and courts. As a part of the case, she says a state psychologist diagnosed her with a delusional disorder.
The public defenders have changed, the judges have changed, the CPS caseworkers changed.
She had 7 different caseworkers. She named every single one of them by name to me. Is that normal practice?
No.
Charles Flanagan took over the newly created Department of Child Safety earlier this year. He says they've received recent claims. Hospitals are pushing DCS to remove children, but found caseworkers are making the right call.
Yes, I do believe that parents have the right to refuse treatment when it is not going to harm the child.
Not going to harm the child. That is the balance DCS investigators are challenged to find. Because of laws protecting privacy of children and families, though, cases receive little public scrutiny.
The problem is that only one side of these stories is being told, and quite frankly, I haven't seen a lot of accuracy in those sides.
Attorney Linda Vesio is not representing Tonya, but handles these cases in juvenile court where parents fight to get their children back.
And the problem is, because we don't have the access to people who will second-guess PCH, we don't have the ability to come in and challenge the quote findings of abuse.
She believes too many cases end up here, wasting time and money, and putting the parents in a system where they have to prove their innocence.
I've had multiple cases where the person who the department tasks with overseeing this family and making recommendations says, this case should be dismissed, this family is safe, and their supervisor, who's never even met the family, overrides them.
Flanagan agrees that too many children are being removed from homes. Even before the 6,500 uninvestigated cases last year, Arizona had the third highest removal rate in the country.
I do believe that we have to completely overhaul our system and our practices from the past.
Which brings us back to Tonya's case.
Everyone works for CPS. The psychologists, the parent aides, the people who transport your kids.
She feels trapped with only her prayers that the court will let her son come home. And she has second thoughts about the choices she made as she tried to save him.
If you had to do it over again, would you have completed the chemo and done the bone marrow transplant?
Yeah. If I would have known it would get taken from me, I would have never taken it off.
And Tonya tells me her son survived that bone marrow transplant and is thriving now, but her court proceedings are now closed. She simply told me there has been no resolution. We'll continue to follow that part. Well, again, Charles Flanagan saying they have reviewed these types of cases that are being shared via social media recently and insists they have found no validity to the claims. We will continue to monitor him and his agency as he tries to change the culture there. Carrie, I'll send it back to you.
Powerful story, Fields. Thank you.